Hello, you're watching ITV News Meridian here in the south.
The headlines this Thursday evening. The investigation into patient deaths at Southern Health concludes with revelations that a witness had been bullied.
A serious data breach. Dorset Police investigates after a member of the public receives highly sensitive information.
HMS Queen Elizabeth prepares to leave Portsmouth, heading up the biggest naval deployment since the 1980s.
And we try and catch up with the extreme runner who's attempting 200 marathons in 100 days. That's 2 a day. Good evening to you. The chairman of an inquiry into the way Southern Health investigates patient deaths and complaints has strongly condemned the intimidation of a witness.
Nigel Pascoe QC was speaking on the last day of a hearing, which was prompted by the failures in the way the Trust cared for 5 patients who died.
Well, the Trust provides mental health services across Hampshire, and last year it was rated good by the Care Quality Commission. But it had previously come under fire for a lack of leadership. With more details, Kerry Swain sends this from our newsroom.
This inquiry was prompted by a report last year into the Trust's handling of the deaths of 5 patients between 2011 and 2015. Joe Deering, David West, Robert Small, Edward Hartley and Marion Munns were all under the care of Southern Health at the time. Their families believe that poor care contributed to what they believe were entirely avoidable deaths. Last year's inquiry was set up to try to learn lessons, but the families withdrew, saying they felt gaslighted and bullied by the NHS. They're still very angry about how complaints are dealt with.
They need to recognise every death matters to the health, safety and welfare of each and every service user in the care of the Trust. And until that message is really recognised by the Trust, nothing will change.
Nigel Pascoe QC said at the outset that the anger of bereaved families was palpable and had to be addressed. His job now will be to filter through the evidence we've heard over the past 3 months. Much of it has been positive from senior staff members who say there has been a cultural shift at the Trust. But some, like John Green, a former governor at Southern Health who resigned in frustration, say the issues are deep-seated through the whole NHS.
Whoever comes into the organisation gets subsumed into the culture of the NHS, which I've described as both totalitarian and anarchistic. The focus should be on the people doing the work, and if deaths are resulting from the way they work, they need to all sit down together and work out an improved management and healthcare methodology system which prevents those things from happening again.
Closing the hearing today, Mr Pascoe said the only serious interruption of proceedings was the deliberate and wicked intimidation of a Trust employee, which caused considerable distress. He said, "We have learnt to our utter disgust of further cruel bullying of that witness since she gave evidence. Where that may be appropriate, the law should take its course." Mr Pascoe said the aim was not to investigate past bad experiences, but to report on the present position of the Trust and where there is a need to improve to make recommendations. He's due to report back by the end of June.
Kerry Swain. In other news, a man has suffered serious injuries after he was hit by a car on the Isle of Wight. The collision happened between 12:30 and 1 a.m. this morning on Ashley Road in Ryde. The car involved is believed to be dark in colour and will now have damage to the front. The 30-year-old man was treated at the scene. Police want to hear from anyone with dashcam footage.
A woman's been jailed for 5 years for assaulting 2 people at Southsea Bandstand using smashed glass. 34-year-old Rose Margaret Lale from Hilsey approached a man and a woman back in July 2018. The court heard how she smashed a glass drinking jar over the woman's head before punching the man in the face.
A woman accused of perverting the course of justice has told a court she had no choice but to lie about evidence against her partner over the murder of 2 9-year-old girls in Brighton in 1986. Jennifer Johnson is accused of shielding Russell Bishop over the murders of Nicola Fellows and Karen Hadaway. Their bodies were found in Wild Park. Johnson denies perjury and perverting the course of justice in relation to Bishop's trial in 1987. She claims she was acting under duress while lying on oath more than 30 years ago.
Dorset Police are investigating a serious data breach involving pupils from 2 schools in Christchurch. Information about an alleged race hate incident were mistakenly sent to a man from Wimborne who'd initially emailed the police about a totally separate issue.
The information included the names of the 2 schools involved and the names of 3 pupils, including the pupil who's alleged to have sent the message. Richard Slee has the latest.
The content of the social media message that was reported to the police by one of the schools was extremely abusive, and so Poole reader was quite shocked to find it included in a reply he received from Dorset Police about a quite separate matter. He immediately emailed back to alert the police about their mistake and later received an apology.
It's not the sort of thing I would have thought they would send out, even by accident. I wouldn't be happy if that was my child and had all their details, personal information, and the school, to be honest. The fact it was a racist incident as well. You know, what about the kids and the school and the families involved? And I imagine they're not going to be too happy.
In a statement, Dorset Police says human error has resulted in the details of a reported incident being disclosed to another member of the public. We have stringent processes in place and a full and thorough investigation is underway. Part of this investigation is to determine whether a self-referral to the Information Commissioner's office is needed. One data protection expert we spoke to says that mistakes like this undermine the public's confidence in the police.
If they were thinking that the police wouldn't keep that information confidential, there is no way they would want to share that with the police. So it might encourage people not to report incidents to the police. And we might see so many crimes going unsolved and undetected because people can't trust the police with those sensitive details.
In their statement, Dorset Police also says that all individuals named in the documentation have been notified and we will continue to engage with them and provide support. We have offered our sincere apologies to the person who wrongly received the data, as well as the individuals involved who have inadvertently had their details shared. Dorset Police is in the process of installing new computer software, which it says will prevent this sort of mistake happening in the future. Richard Slee, ITV News, Bournemouth.
3 teenagers have been rearrested following an attack in Worthing. Care worker Alan Wilson remains in a serious condition following the assault in Longcroft Park 3 weeks ago on Easter Sunday. 5 boys were arrested initially, 3 remain in custody. Police continue to appeal for witnesses.
A phased reopening has begun at Crawley College today. The school had to be evacuated on Monday after gunshots were heard. A blank-firing handgun was later seized. An 18-year-old man has since been charged with multiple offences.
Pregnant women in Dorset are now being asked to take a rapid COVID test before their maternity appointments. It's another step to help keep staff and patients safe. From May the 4th, women will be asked to show their results before booking in.
Now, there's just 1 week to go before voters across the south will get the chance to vote in the local elections on May the 6th. It'll be the biggest round of elections in living memory.
Yes, for some areas it'll include votes for a new police and crime commissioner and some smaller council elections. Chloe Oliver will tell us more.
First, everyone has a vote in the Police and Crime Commissioner elections, the person who holds the Chief Constable and they're forced to account. At the moment, the Conservatives hold that post everywhere in our region, except Dorset, where an independent's been doing the job. County councils have elections too, West Sussex, Surrey and Hampshire. All these authorities are Tory-controlled at the moment. And there are some elections too in big unitary councils like Labour-controlled Southampton, and also Portsmouth, where no party has an overall majority. And there are elections for lots of smaller councils too. Ada in Sussex, Basingstoke and Dean, Crawley, Eastleigh, one of the few Lib Dem strongholds in the south. Fareham, Gosport, Hart, Havant, Winchester and Worthing. In most places, not all seats are up for grabs, except Basingstoke and Dean, where there are elections everywhere.
Chloe Oliver, and you are watching ITV News here in the Meridian region. Thank you so much for choosing us. And you can find more on today's top stories in our region throughout the day and evening on our website. Just go to itv.com/Meridian. You can call us on 0808 1010 095. And of course, you can also follow us both on Facebook and on Twitter.
Now, final preparations are being made for HMS Queen Elizabeth to leave Portsmouth this weekend on her first official deployment. The aircraft carrier will lead the biggest group of naval warships to deploy internationally since the 1980s.
Their 26,000-mile journey will take them halfway around the world, visiting countries including Singapore and Japan, as well as taking part in exercises with UK allies. But the last 48 hours before departure are a huge logistical challenge, as Christine Alsford now explains.
Preparing for any major trip comes with plenty of challenges, but when that preparation is for the biggest deployment of Royal Navy ships in a generation, those challenges are on a different scale altogether. These are the scenes as helicopters arrived on the flight deck of HMS Queen Elizabeth in Portsmouth. The aircraft carrier's first deployment, a long time in the making.
It's the manifestation of years of activity. I think there are people that have retired from the Navy and the dockyard and industry many years ago that started this project. So, we're all really proud to be part of it now as we sail out of the door.
She will sail out of the door equipped to take her F-35 jets with her, accompanied by frigates and destroyers and joined by American and Dutch ships too.
To have such a unique and large carrier strike group going halfway around the world and back, I think it's a reassurance to all of our allies as well as a reminder to potential adversaries.
Some of those serving on board weren't even born when the Queen Elizabeth began to be planned and built, like 21-year-old able seaman Helena Burkitt. It's her first deployment too.
Before I even joined the Navy, I was like, I want HMS Queen Elizabeth. Like, I was always desperate to be on this ship. As soon as I came out of training, I was like, I want that ship so badly because of this deployment. It just seems like such a big deal.
The logistics mean personnel and their kit will be loaded right up until the last minute. The man in charge of getting all the supplies on a very long list on board has certainly had his hands full.
The worst, certain people are saying, oh, you'll never get it, she'll never go on time. Well, she's going on time with everything that she needs. So the naysayers have been proved wrong and the base has actually put it together.
One of the last things to be loaded on board is all the food required to feed the ship's company over the coming weeks. In total, they'll be dishing up some 4,800 meals a day, and it's all got to be loaded on there. With 48 hours to go, the focus now is on the real finishing touches to ensure the capabilities of our modern global navy are ready to be showcased around the world. Christine Alsford, ITV News.
Wow, what an amazing sight. And the ITV Evening News continues with the national and international news at 6:30. With more details, here's Mary Nightingale.
Coming up on the programme, the Prime Minister brushes aside an investigation into the redecoration of his Downing Street flat. Nothing to see here, he says. Labour's Keir Starmer says the inquiries could be over in minutes if Boris Johnson were to answer some simple questions. Tributes to the murdered police community support officer Julia James, last seen walking her dog in Kent. Plus, the Cambridges as you've never seen them before as Kate and William celebrate 10 years of marriage. Well, do join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Thank you, Mary. Now, last year we ate almost 3 million tonnes of sugary food here in the UK, with the average person consuming 4 times the recommended daily amount.
Refined sugar is one of the biggest causes of Britain's obesity crisis. Figures show that 66% of men and 54% of women in the South are classed as either overweight or obese. In a special two-part series, ITV's Tonight programme follows Tom Watson, former deputy leader of the Labour Party, who gave up sugar and lost 8 stone. He hears from those who've also turned their lives around.
I would usually get breakfast on the run. It would be cereal with sugar and honey and bananas. There'd be cans of pop all the time because I was always thirsty. When you were diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, how did you feel?
I was shocked initially because of how blunt the consultant was with the prognosis on the rest of my life. I was down about it and angry at myself for getting myself into such a position.
Well, delighted to say we can now talk to Tom Watson. So good to see you, Tom. You are looking fantastically well. How has giving up sugar changed your life?
Oh, Fred, it was like getting my life back. I'm more agile, I move more, I feel calmer, I can do things, lark about with the kids in a way I couldn't previously do it. I feel like it's given me more years to live.
You see, sugar becomes a sort of addiction, I suppose. I mean, I'm addicted, I've got to admit it. You gave it up, you lost 8 stone. How difficult, though, was it to give up? What tips can you give us?
I think the hardest thing is committing to do it, because you actually crave it for the first few days. And so getting through the first week is the hardest. I started eating bacon and eggs for a week, and it did me a lot of good. It stopped me wanting those sugary breakfast cereals. And then I went to bed early for a week and I slept through it. And after about a week, I went away and I just felt better. But it's hard in the first week, but it's worth trying and getting through that period.
Good advice. And on a very serious note, the NHS spends around £15 billion each year treating complications caused by diabetes. What else should be done, do you think?
Well, it's not just about personal health. There's a taxpayer interest in this. And, as a nation, we eat 4 times as much refined sugar as is recommended on average. So if we can reduce sugar in our diets, it's going to make people healthy again. And then we could start spending some of that NHS money on making people even better on other issues, rather than these ones that are related to diet. So cut down the sugar and get your life back.
Such good advice. Tom Watson, so good to talk to you. Thank you very much, and so looking forward to your programme this evening.
Thanks, Fred.
And you can see more from Giving Up Sugar for Good tonight on ITV from 7:30, with part 2 tomorrow night from 8 o'clock.
Wow, just incredible. What a weight loss, isn't it?
He looks fantastic.
He really does, really inspirational. Now, it's that time of year when many of us have started to cut the lawn, but industry bosses tell us sales of artificial grass are really starting to grow too.
Yes, more and more people are apparently choosing the pristine plastic option for its perfect appearance, but environmental experts are worried about the impact on insects and wildlife and question whether there's a risk of more microplastics entering our waterways. Matt Price has the story.
For Billy Empsey, an artificial lawn is both convenient and comfortable underfoot. It's easy to maintain, and says now he'd have it no other way.
We're getting on a bit now, so we decided that it would be easier for us to maintain, basically. We don't have the problem with cutting the grass anymore as we're getting old. This one we've got is an expensive one. It's one of the best ones, so we're quite happy with it.
One report claims the UK is the largest market for artificial turf in Europe. And for those who make it and lay it, business is booming. This firm at New Milton in Hampshire is working to make more eco-friendly versions so it lasts for longer and doesn't end up in landfill.
Our manufacturing group is always researching and developing new ways to make us more sustainable. So we've recently opened an artificial grass recycling plant in the Netherlands, and in the next coming months we're actually releasing a new product which is an eco-friendly artificial grass. It can actually purify polluted air.
But artificial turf is something of a bugbear for those who study insects.
It's a horrible, horrible concept.
Paul Hetherington isn't holding back. He'd encourage us all to consider the real deal instead.
You're getting rid of something that's natural, that promulgates life forms, and replacing with something completely artificial, and you're creating effectively a deep desert within your garden.
This is a debate environmentalists are following closely. John Grant has patches of plastic lawn in his back garden, but why?
A well-maintained lawn requires quite a bit of pesticides, quite a bit of herbicides, and then cutting grass. What kind of energy are you using that? If you use a 2-stroke engine, like your standard petrol engine, estimates are that it's like driving a car about 3,500 miles a year is the same kind of pollution that cutting an average sized lawn with a petrol engine is.
One of the main selling points is that it doesn't need cutting. Pristine and always green, it looks immaculate. This is an industry, we're told, which, unlike the lawns themselves, is simply set to grow. Matt Price, ITV News.
Well, you certainly have strong views on your turf, fake or not. Hundreds of Facebook messages.
Yes, Diana Chichester says, my garden won't seem to grow anything, so I have tough turf. The cats like it, and most of my growing is done in pots. Plus, she says, they don't have much wildlife with boys playing in the garden. I know how she feels.
Meanwhile, Sharon Walton says, I despair that people lay this stuff down. Fibres forever left in the earth. No bugs or worms can live in it. Birds can't feed from it. Slow worms can't hide in it. She says if you have a shady garden, please build bug houses, nest boxes and hedgehog feeding stations. Good advice.
Thank you to everyone who got in touch, and there were literally hundreds of you.
There were, thank you. Meanwhile, a long-distance runner from Dorset is aiming to run 2 marathons a day for 100 days. Nick Butter is no stranger to endurance events, but says this challenge is the hardest so far.
The 31-year-old has already achieved a world first by running a marathon in every country, but that was fraught with danger. He was shot at, mugged and attacked by dogs. But he told our reporter Sally Simmons that physically he's at his limit this time.
It's day 13 of 100, and as Nick Butter heads into West Wittering in Sussex, he tells me he's behind schedule.
The official plan is to do 200 marathons in 100 days around Britain. So that's 5,240 miles in 100 days. So that's a double marathon a day, basically. It's not gone entirely to plan because I've got a few injuries, but the plan is to get back on track and catch up the distance over the next few days.
The runner from Verwood in Dorset invites other runners to accompany him every day. He says they support him. They say he is such an inspiration.
How far did you run?
40, yeah, full marathon.
Full marathon?
Yeah.
Wow. Have you done it before?
No, the first time.
Oh, well done.
Furthest I've run before was half marathon.
What sort of pace did you run at?
About 11-minute miles, but there was one bit where he disappeared off into the distance, running at about 9:30, and we had to slow him down because he's got to protect his knees and stuff.
The 31-year-old was the first person to complete a marathon in every country, 196 altogether. He saw stunning wildlife and feared for his life when he was shot at, mugged and attacked by dogs. But Nick says this 100-day run around Britain is the hardest challenge he's faced.
This is physically the most demanding. I have, I'm on the road, I'm at 8,000 calories a day, between 11 hours running and 19 hours running, which was the other day, which was my injury day. Logistically, it's slightly easier because we're not having to juggle passports or borders or war zones. Hopefully I won't be attacked by too many dogs here either.
The Worldwide 196 Foundation is the reason for the running. As Nick puts ice packs on his knees, the plan is to return to double marathons tomorrow after a few days rest and a few singles. He says he doesn't know if he can achieve this, but it won't be for lack of trying. Sally Simmons, ITV News, West Wittering.
Wow, that is just incredible. Impossible, I'd say.
You cannot believe it, can you?
Wow, 2 marathons. Anyway, apparently the next stop is Brighton. That's if he can do a double marathon tomorrow. We wish you the very best of luck, Nick. Let's hope you can do it.
And I reckon our Sally Simmons could give him a good run for his
really
money as
good,
well. She was looking really good there. Let's race into the weather now. Here's your forecast. Amanda Houston.
Great Western Railway sponsors the ITV Meridian weather.
Hello again. Well, as you've probably been hearing, April so far has been exceptionally dry across the region. However, we're expecting a few showers to end the month, and overall the next few days are going to be staying on the cool side, and there will be some overnight frost in places too. However, if you are after a good dolloping of rain, well, it looks like you could be seeing some on Bank Holiday Monday. So let's take a look at that in a bit more detail. We can see at the moment not much wind around, so any showers that we do see could be heavy and slow moving, and also with the air coming in from a northeasterly direction, that's going to keep those temperatures below average for the time of year. Then as we approach late Sunday and into Monday, all change. Low pressure starts to push its way towards us, driving this weather system our way. Some of that rain could be heavy in places, and you can see by the squeeze and the isobars, quite windy out there too. Now for the rest of tonight, perhaps one or two showers around, but for most of us it will be dry with clear skies, so the temperatures will turn a little on the chilly side, especially in parts of the countryside. So patchy frost to start things tomorrow morning. There will be some sunny spells, and then showers will be developing, and as I mentioned earlier, with those light winds, those showers could be heavy and slow moving. You might even hear a rumble of thunder too, and disappointing temperatures. Highs there up to around 12 degrees, and that's for the sea states, slight. And then speaking of which, you can see your high tide times tomorrow. Southampton at around 25 to 2 in the morning, and again at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So the weather picture as we go into the weekend, sunshine and showers for many of us, but then on Monday we're expecting some heavy rain in places and strong gusty winds too.
Great Western Railway sponsors the ITV Meridian weather.
And in just a moment, the ITV Evening News. Tonight is with Mary Nightingale.
Stacey's got our late news just after 10:30, so make a day to join her if you possibly can. But for now, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thank you very much for watching. Enjoy your evening and take care from all of us. Bye-bye.
Good night.